All right, this is Chris back here with you. I am super excited to get back into talking about the power of compounding interest because compounding interest and understanding the power of compounding interest is one of the most important facets. It's going to be one of the most important elements of you being able to get to where you want to go financially because you need to leverage the power of compounding to be able to actually really truly create wealth. And we're going to get into exactly how you can do that and some pitfalls to avoid along the way. Now, Albert Einstein made a quote way back in the day that said, compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And there's actually no more true statement I think that's ever been said in the entire face of the earth. And with our debt situation, and we're going to get into this a little bit, there it shows how and why understanding compounding interest is so important. You either earn it or you pay it to the bank. Not only is understanding it important, I think understanding compounding interest is actually the most important part of your personal finances. In fact, when Ernest Hemingway was asked how he went bankrupt, he responded, well, two ways, gradually, then suddenly. And if you look at the national debt for consumers and governments in the US and around the world, you can see how it happened to him. In fact, I think one of the biggest problems in this world is the debt load that the average citizen is actually carrying right now. And the biggest problem with the debt load people are carrying is the fact that debt compounds against you. Because you're not earning anymore, you're actually paying it to the bank. So even if you have a credit card bill of only $5,000, which is a third of the average credit card debt for the average household in this country, that will lead with an average bill to $1,000 per year in interest just for the average household. And that $1,000 interest expense is more than the average family saves per year. Remember that only 40% of Americans actually have $500 even saved and accessible in case of an emergency. So I wanted to show you the importance of understanding compound interest with a pretty cool example that I like to do. So this is a pretty extreme example, but at the same time, it also teaches the principle on how compounding interest actually works. And now I want to walk you through a couple things here just really quickly. It's something that I ask most of the people that I talk to, and it's a question that I ask. I give them two options, option A and option B. And option A is saying, okay, I'm going to give you option A, which is take $3 million. I'm going to give you $3 million right now. And option B is saying, okay, option B is you get a penny and you get to double that penny every day for a month. Now, most people would naturally choose the 3,000 or $3 million up front, but because it seems such a crazy example, everybody kind of gets the sense that that it's a trick question, if you will, and it in fact is because if you were to take that $3 million from me up front, that would be a massive, massive financial error. And let me show you why. It's all because of compounding interest. And I'm going to walk through this and show you some examples. Now, we're not going to fill out the tax brackets and all that because we're not going to get into what a lot of what this software can actually do as far as talking about specific taxable accounts and what type of money, what type of account your money is compounding in. But I do want to talk about the principle of down here. This is how much money you have. You can see the penny here. It's day one. Day two, it's 2 pennies, and see it's doubling every day. Day four, you got 8 pennies. Day five, and by day 10, you can see you got $5.12. Now, that sounds like you're a third of the way month through now. You're almost a third of the way month through, and you're in a situation where you're probably starting to regret not taking the $3 million if you're in this situation. But as we said, you know what the end result's going to be. At least you know it's going to be better than 3 million. But let's see how we got there. By day 16, we're now just over halfway there, and you have $327. Still a far cry from your 3 million. But now we can see we're starting to pick up steam. By day 21, we're at 10,000. Now we're starting to really crank. And by day 25, you got $167,000. Now, what happens in real life is that people don't save, they invest. And we've been kind of tricked, if you will, or convinced and marketed to that we need to go out and invest. And the younger you are, the more risk you can take and all that good stuff, which isn't really good, but that's what we've been taught. And the challenge with people's financial lives right now isn't that they're not saving, because they are what they think is saving, but they're actually investing, and they're investing into accounts that they don't have access to, that do not earn guaranteed uninterrupted compounding interest. They go up and down with the market, and the challenge is when they need that money the most is going to be when the market crashes. And we'll get more into that in the next module, but there's nothing worse you can do than taking money out of a declining or negatively performing asset. So the other thing is people tap into their 401k, tap into their IRA or their Roth IRA. They do stuff like that because they want access to it, to buy a house, to pay for bills, to pay down debt, to just do other things in case of an emergency. But the worst thing that you can do is take money out of a negatively performing asset. Not to mention, if the market crashes, let's say this is instead of a day, it's a year, and look, 25 years from now, you get $167,000 in an account. Well, if the market goes down 50%, bang, you lose. And this is an extreme example, as I said before, where the account doubles every year. But if it doesn't double every year, for every 50% you lose, you need to earn 100% just to get back to even. And it takes a lot longer to go up than it does to crash. And that's where people are getting stuck, and they're having to access that money way prematurely, and they're using their retirement account as an emergency account. And so that financial structure is just not working. But you can see here that the compounding by day 29, by day 30, and then by day 31, the last day of the month, you're at $10 million. So if you took the $3 million, you made a pretty significant financial error. And what this shows is that if you look at this, it's the last 4 days, 28, 29, 30, and 31, where over 90% of the growth occurs. Now, once again, this is an extreme example because it's a penny doubling, right? It's that doubling effect every day. But the bottom line is compound interest works the same way. And this extreme example preaches the principle, right? Your money does more for you as you go down the road. You're not going to see the benefits on the short term so much. But the thing is that every time you lose money, anytime you access that money and interrupt compounding, you're delaying your ability to really receive this compounding benefit. Every time you pay money to a credit card, it's going to have a negative effect because you're losing the ability to earn on that. We call that opportunity cost, because every time you spend money, you don't only lose that money, you lose the opportunity to earn money on that expenditure. So that's key to understand. So moving forward now, getting into some real life examples, not only do most financial professionals suggest that the younger you are, the more risk you can take, but they also suggest that they tell you to buy and hold your investments. And they say buy and hold works because, yes, the market's going to go up, it's going to go down, and it's going to go through cycles. But over a 30-year period, which is the average of what somebody actually works, it'll average out to work out in your favor. They'll tell you that there's never been a 30-year period in the history of the market where it hasn't averaged 8%. And you know what? That's actually true. But my question to you is, would you like to know why that doesn't matter? It's because the average rate of return has absolutely nothing to do with your ability to grow and create wealth. So what I want to do now is take a look at why. So here's another example that I like to go over with people when I first start talking to them about average return versus annualized return or actual return. I like to give the kind of the comparison of the three because in the financial industry, it's very common, as I just said, to show people that, or tell people, I should say, that yes, the market's going to be up and down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to have its ups and downs, but the bottom line is over time the market's going to go up and then it's going to average 8%. So what do is they say, okay, well, let's just get rid of the highs, get rid of the lows, and show you this nice average happy looking curve going up. And the reality is that it just doesn't work that way, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and quite frankly, it's a little baffling to me that it's even legal for financial professionals to do that. So what I wanted to do is just kind of show you an example on the calculator here of what we do, how we do it, how we explain this principle on how it works, and so you know the truth, so you know what to look for moving forward as you're thinking about what investment is right for you. Because the bottom line is, getting an 8% rate of return over a period of time is very unrealistic. And one of the biggest problems in this world is people have unrealistic expectations of what to get for results out of their investments. And so let's take a look at this. The initial balance of 100,000, we're just going to keep that. It's a nice round number, whatever. Let's just talk about, okay, let's say the market goes up 10%, right? And I'm going to do a couple different examples for you to show, and just in different ways here. So the market goes up 100 or 10%. You got $110,000 now because it went up 10%. The next year it goes down 10%, and you can see now you have 99. And then we're going to just kind of do this a couple ways here, and it goes down 10%. It goes up 10%, and you can see I'm gonna just keep doing this a couple times here, and you're gonna see the point here. You are going broke slowly, right? Because even though it goes up and down, and you are in a situation where, I'm sorry, I'm punching numbers in here. I'm gonna stop there. But even though you see it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, you're going broke slowly, and your average rate of return is 0, but your annualized rate of return is negative 0.5, and your actual rate of return over the period of time is negative 2.97. That doesn't sound very good. So that's one example on why average rate of return is not really what matters. It's the actual rate of return or the annualized rate of return. So make sure that you're looking out for that, because guess what? It is very dangerous if you don't check into that trap, because a lot of prospectuses talk about average rate of returns, not annualized, not actual, nothing like that. Now let's make it a little more of an extreme example. Let's say you have money and the market goes down, as I said earlier, an example, 50%. Let's say it goes down 50% to start. And we can go back the other way and use the example as well, because let's say this is a 2008 type period. Now you went from 100,000 to 50,000, right? Because the market went down in a bad way. But let's say we have a recovery like we've never had it before. The market goes back up 100% the next year, year 2. The market goes back up 100%. What do you have now? Well, you're back to $100,000. Well, what's the average rate of return? Well, most people would say 0. You get to see the cheat sheet right here. But the bottom line is the annualized rate of return and the actual rate of return are 0. But the average rate of return, and it's legal for financial professionals to say, you know what, the market's been down, and as volatile as the market's been, my clients have averaged 25% over the last couple of years. That's a legal statement to make, even though in reality, their clients could be completely flat and have no results at all. So it's kind of crazy. And so you can see here that principle doesn't change. It could go up 100% to start, and then it could go down 50% after that. And you wind up in the same place. Average rate of return is 25 still, and you're still at the same place. Your actual rate of return is 0. And the bottom line is this principle works in all levels. And I could tell you that one of the reasons they say that 8% is the happy number for financial advisors is the S&P 500, which is one of the most stable, powerful stock indexes in the entire world, since 1925 has averaged 8.36%, right? And I'm going to talk about that. It's averaged 8.36%, but the reality is the actual rate of return is actually closer to 6. Question is, what does that mean for you? So they say that a picture says 1,000 words, and I'm going to actually say that this picture says a lot more than that, because the bottom line is this, is that the reality is since 1925, the S&P 500, and that's what this chart is indicative of, has averaged, quote unquote, 8.36%. But this is what happens if you look at the gray here on the graph. That gray is basically showing, okay, if the market's averaging 8.6%, yes, the market's going to be up, it's going to be down, and so on and so forth. But you can bank on the 8.36% average over the long term, so you're going to be good to go. So they show you this nice, slow growth, compounding growth, and over time, because of the power of compounding, as we saw in the doubling of the penny, that you get this benefit, right? And so what I want to show you, though, is that that's not even close to the way it works, because if that were true, then that everybody would probably be in a much better position, but they're not. And if that were also true, if in 1925 I did this example, you have $1,000, you can see in the bottom lower corner, bottom left corner. We started with $1,000 in this example. And that $1,000, if just left to grow at 8.36%, would grow to be 1.268 million. So if I went back to you, let's say I had a time machine and I could go back to you and we were back in 1925 and I said, hey, listen, I got the best investment. I just got back from the future in my time machine and I got an investment that I know is going to average 8.36%. I've seen the future, I've seen the charts, and I know everybody's raving about the S&P 500 averaging 8.36%, over 8% for the last whatever amount of years, 80 plus years. And if you just give me $1,000, you may not use it, but the bottom line is for your kids, for your grandkids, you're going to have $1.25 million, and that is what you can bank on. And the challenge is that's an extreme example, but this is the mindset that people are using when they're planning for their future, when they're planning for their retirement. And the reality is this, is that $1.68 million that you can see doesn't happen at all. The actual performance is closer, you can see here, this isn't hypothesis, this isn't my opinion, this is statistical fact. This is what $1,000 would have turned into based on actual performance of the market. The actual performance with no fees would have been $235,000. That's the blue part of the graph there. $235,000. Now, if I went to you and said, hey, buddy, hey, friend, I have this strategy that's gonna get you to $1.25 million. Let's do it. And then I got you to $235,000. Are you gonna be happy? Right? You're at about a fifth, 20% of where you thought you'd be. Right? The average didn't change, but what changed? The average rate of return didn't change. What changed was the actual rate of return. And what changed was the annualized rate of return. And the thing with this is that it gets even worse, because after that, you're not going to find a money manager alive. You're not going to find anybody who's going to help you with your investments alive that doesn't charge a commission. And what we do is these are mid-level ranges for commission fees. And if you find a money manager where your money's going into a fund or being actively managed, you're going to pay about 1.5% fees on average. You can get a little lower, but you'll get a little higher. The more money you have, the more actively it gets managed and the higher fees you kind of pay. So it averages out to about 1.5%, I would say. And what that does is that 1.5% doesn't seem like such a big deal, but it is massive. You actually, over that period of time, it will take your wealth potential from the 235,000 that actually would be there all the way down to 64,000. So at the end of the day, I would have told you that you would have had $1.25 million when you first started the investment, and 88 years later in this example, you will have ended up with $64,000. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm on the receiving end of that deal, I'm not very happy, and I'm probably not going to be friends with the person who brought that investment to me anymore. But this is what the average person in this world is doing. These are the mindsets and the focuses that the average investor, that the average saver are focusing on, and it is just unacceptable to keep going this way. So people need to open their eyes and understand compounding interest, and understanding that buy and hold only works to a certain level. And if you are going to buy and hold, you better have the right savings first. And once you have that in place, once you even have the right savings in place, you even then have to make sure that you are investing in the right accounts. And if you buy and hold, you do not touch that money. And when you do that, you have the right expectations. And the average rate of return is not the right expectation. The right expectation, the proper expectation, in my opinion, and what you're going to learn, and you'll learn why that is my opinion, is about 5.5%. I hope this is making sense. Don't worry if it doesn't make complete sense, because it is confusing stuff. But promise me, just stick with it, and I will give you step-by-step instructions on what to do. What we're going to do in the next video is teach you the Life 180 pyramid and show you how the most successful people in the world structure their finances. And I have to tell you, get out your notepads, because understanding the principles that I teach you in the next video will help you to stop the roller coaster ride that you're currently probably living with in your finances. And until next video, make sure you live abundantly, live efficiently, and live Life 180. Have fun.